We are live again. Take two. Hey, this is Jeff. You're here on the Huddle Review exclusively on the chain. Today, we are going to talk about whether or not cryptocurrency is an existential threat to the US dollar. Is it a threat to the US dollar as a reserve currency? Is it a threat to the US dollar sovereign or the US's sovereign right to its own sovereign currency? What's going on? Is regulation necessary to actually smooth things over? What is going on in this space? And what is it about censorship? What is it about the powers that be way up here that have the ability to shut you down when you least expect it? We're going to talk about all that stuff because you know what? If you have, whether it's AI driven or it's individual driven, if there's somebody in power that has that ability to shut down your voice against your constitutional rights to voice your freedoms, there's a problem. Whether that freedom is your expression to discuss cryptocurrency, or it's politics, or you want to express your opinion on whether or not cats are better than dogs or dogs are better than cats, who's given the right to shut your voice down? Is this the Soviet Union? Is this communist China? Or is the world as a whole, especially as we get the blockchain community and the digital asset community together to voice their interest in the development of the blockchain space, the development in the digital asset space, the growth of individual personal economic freedom? For the first time ever, people around the world have an opportunity to break away, to actually do something for themselves, by themselves, with community backing. It's unbelievable. And yet there's the powers that be somewhere out there in this digital world that want to silence your voice. And I think it's wrong. I think it's absolutely a travesty to see things like this happen. But I want to say good morning to everybody. Yo, what is up? We've got Kelly Slade over here already. We got Crypto Cat, and we have Chip, co-host of On the Chain, sitting in the chat. Hopefully, we're going to get a bunch more people. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, run out, get your espresso. Today is Segfredo Day, and Segfredo, it is outstanding. If you want a good coffee, you can also go check out in the description below because it's either there, it might not be, I don't know. But if you see in the description below, you'll see some of the coffees that we like. Segfredo was limited on Amazon. I had to go out and get it directly, and even go find it. I think it was Segfredo coffee. It's in the red bag. Make sure you get the whole bean. Outstanding. All the others that we've talked about, but make sure you get that because we have so much to talk about, a lot to review when it comes to cryptocurrency regulation and whether or not crypto in general can be seen as a threat to the US dollar or any other major global currency. And I think it's time. So let's go. Wow. Can you guys believe that? If you guys are just tuning in right now, then you probably didn't see what happened when we started streaming. What is it now? 20 minutes ago. We started streaming and boom, just like that, we got yanked offline. Just like that. We were censored. Censored. Not good. Not good at all. That's bad form. Very bad form because we're here. We're sharing. We're talking about digital assets. We're talking about cryptocurrency. Did we hit a nerve someplace when we started talking about this? Are we somehow a threat? I don't get it. I mean, how crazy is that? We have people here from all over the world that are here to listen and talk and chat and participate in the On the Chain community. and it's just bad form coming from the social media giants who think that their opinions and their voices are holier than anybody else's. They want to take them and they want to oppress you with their opinions. They want to oppress you with their AI. It is bad form coming from social media. And it's time that the people stand up, the cryptocurrency community stand up against the onslaught against our freedoms that's being perpetrated by the social media giants. It is bad form. So here we go. We have DNI in with us. What is up, DNI? Glad to have you here. We've got K. K is saying censorship is wrong 100%. And when you get censored, we get up and we jump right back in because you're not going to keep us down. You're not going to silence us. And it's going to be, whether it's on this platform or another, eventually those that try to silence you, karma's a bitch and it's going to bite you in the ass. So, look out for that. Masad, man, great to have you on here. The semi-life, interesting. What is this here? What does this say? Let's, bring you up here. Oh, Boyle, my cell token holding has erased all lost. I had holding XRP from 2017. Okay. Trying to understand exactly what you're saying there, but my understanding is that your collection of cell up to this point that you're getting as a benefit from being on the Celsius exchange has now erased the losses that you had from XRP, because now you're gaining interest and making additional, you're getting payout in cell, which has also gone up in value. I think that's what you're saying there, but that's awesome. Kelly, yes, that's exactly it. Boom. And actually, as a matter of fact, I wake up kind of like this and I don't really need the caffeine. So maybe it's the caffeine that like amps it up even further. but starting the morning with a good quality coffee is outstanding. So here we go. We've got Steve Willits. Don't feel too bad. People pay good money to get yanked off. Oh my God. All right. Now we just definitely got censored. Boom. We just probably got bleeped out altogether over here. So we're going to talk a lot about regulation. We want to look at how or if cryptocurrency could be considered somehow a threat to the US dollar. Could it be a threat to the British pound? Could it be a threat to the euro? And when we look at reserve currencies, when we look at trade, global trade, there are a handful of currencies, the US dollar probably number one, but overall you see in the trade currency world, you see a lot of transactions occurring in some of those top currencies, and that would be the US dollar, that would be the euro. You have trade in pound, you have the more valuable, more stable I would say, fiat currency. Let's put it that way. And that becomes the commonality in trade. Now, the one thing that we have to look at and to just throw it out there, because as the digital asset space kind of comes to the top, and we look in and we say, is it potentially a threat to global stability? Is it a threat to global stability in economics and even potentially politics? Or can it bring about global stability? Because when you are able to help people all over the world realize wealth or realize self-fulfillment or self-development, it changes the whole dynamics. It changes the concept, because then when you look at the threats, the global threats or threat nation threats to global stability, then it kind of disrupts things a little bit. If you have something to lose, that's great. Then you're going to be a lot more outspoken. So that is interesting, right? So that's where we kind of get tied up and tied down into this whole conversation. So regulation, though, is a different conversation that gets intertwined into the bigger conversation, about whether or not cryptocurrency can be seen as a direct threat to a nation definitely not a threat to the individual, because as an individual, again, no matter where you are in the world, and I like focusing back on this because I look at, individuals that are over in Africa, or individuals that are in parts of Asia, or individuals that are in South America, or individuals that are in the United States that have somehow never realized that they can actually lift themselves up, because they not just realized it, but they've never been given that true opportunity to lift themselves up, from a financial perspective, and do it from a freedom perspective, meaning that they have the freedom to develop their own economic fulfillment. And so that is, I think, the foundation. That is by far really the most critical element in all of this conversation. So we go from the individual, and then you get it to then you take it to the next step. So once the individual is able to realize self-fulfillment, self-engagement, self-development, then you can go up and say, okay, now what's going on from a national level? But if the nation keeps oppressing its people, then you have to be able to circumvent the system. So if you look at places like Venezuela, imagine if they have digital asset regulation in Venezuela. And what's their regulation over there? You can use only our exchange. We're the ones that are going to control and dominate the digital asset exchange that you can use. So are the people then subject to the government's will? Because then at that point, can the government shut down the exchange at any point? Do they dominate the people of that country, based on their economics? They then control the economic flow. There's multiple sides to this conversation. If we look at what's going over in China right now, and China, you get a lot of confusing messaging coming out of China, as you do from other areas. Whereas that China is fully embracing blockchain. They're fully embracing central bank digital currency, the digital yuan, but at the same time, they want to control or limit its population's exposure to other digital asset exchanges. Because if you're predominant and you're able to regulate and control where you're able to put your money, then you control the people 100%. And so that also then becomes a little bit of a threat. And so, here's it's interesting, because, the question then here is what Kelly's bringing up. I think we all get a Fed wallet so Americans can get instant stimulus. That is also a threat. So think about it from a perspective that, if you have, the government, which is saying, here's the exchange that you're going to utilize. It's going to go through this platform. It's going to be on a wallet that you control. And that's another good point. But if the government, and I'm going to get to that in a minute, Steve, but if the government's controlling your wallet because it's a Fed wallet, then what happens when they decide that you're no longer worthy of that Fed wallet? So whether or not they're moving the money, but they're moving the money into a Fed wallet, how many people then are going to hold and keep their digital currency in that Fed wallet versus moving it off into another bank? How many banks are going to be allowed to hold or custody the asset, the Fed asset at that point? Now, are you subject to the government, or are you subject to the private entity, which is the Federal Reserve? That's a whole, another topic that you can get into, but you can see what the issues are. Now you go to another level, and this is interesting because this is something that Steve, that Canada brought up. This was exactly one of the proposals that Canada actually looked at, was with blockchain technology, with digital currency technology, they can instantly tax. And it wasn't so much can we instantly tax, but that they can monitor the ebb and flow of the purchasing of the citizens of Canada to make sure 100% that every last penny of tax was collected and paid. Now, how do you guys feel about that part? To me, right now you have some privacy, right? So whether or not, if the government has to go to the courts, they want to get a court order to release the account information from the banking transaction, blah, 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 whatever. They have to go and get they have to go through multiple layers to get that approval. But now imagine now if the Fed issues a Fed wallet, as an example, or a digital yuan wallet that the government is controlling. It's a government handout. It becomes, extremely dangerous from a perspective that you start quickly moving into the direction of communism or socialism, full government control over your wealth and over the production means of that wealth. So that is definitely scary from that perspective. Now, are these then going to be private wallets like Kelly's bringing up? Questionable, right? There's a huge question mark as to whether or not if the Fed does issue a Fed wallet, as to whether or not those are going to be private. And so that's something. If they say, hey, you can have, it's going to be a digital currency and banks are able to custody at this point, and we see this merging and blending of the exchanges and the banks because the lines are now become blurred, similar to now where you're seeing Kraken able to issue banking. They have a banking license, or Coinbase getting ready to move in that direction, or Uphold. At the end of the day, all the exchanges are basically a bank for your digital assets if you're holding in their wallet that's on their exchange. And so imagine now if the Fed says, hey, we're going to, send out, we have this digital dollar, we're going to distribute it, but it's not done through a Fed wallet. It's coming from them, but if you go online, you plug in the wallet of your choice, and that's where we're going to send it to. Now, you're giving them your send to address. You're giving them your public address. You're not giving them your private key. Now, if they give you a Fed wallet and they say, okay, come on to, Fed, blah, 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 digital asset, currency, dot, whatever, then, now they're in control of it because they're basically running the exchange where they're now holding your digital asset, and they now have full control of your money. So that is where you begin to see a little bit of a threat. So now, to each his own, how the comfort level. But it's important, So, Kelly says banks and thrifts can custody. So yeah, so this is the direction. I'm saying overall, in a general view, general sense, is the Fed going to do that? In my opinion, in the U.S., I believe that they've already taken that first step. So what did from the OCC perspective, they're allowing the federal banks to start with. We're seeing where they're able to custody. We're seeing where they're able to hold the reserves for stablecoin. I think that's an important first step to the development in the blockchain, in the cryptocurrency space, in the adoption of the cryptocurrency space. That was number one. So do I think in the US that they're going to say Fed wallet, government controlled, and that's the only way? I think it's a flag that we have to be cautious of, that's not the direction we want to move in. We want to move in a direction where the private entities are able to hold the digital asset. It's your choice where you want it to end up. I think that's number one. If let's say they have, if it's a government subsidy or whatever, even from a tax perspective, if it's easier for them to move it, everyone has a designation of a Fed wallet because they can just be like, boom, it's in the Fed wallet. But in your Fed wallet specifically, you go in, you log into this Fed wallet, and it allows you then to transaction it out of the Fed wallet. I have no problem with that. If, you're talking about from a tax return perspective, if you need to, help people, if there's, from a social security perspective, if you want immediate payout, it's like, boom, like that. They're in control of that part of the section where it's like, we're putting money for your social security. It's not going into the bank, whatever. It's going to go into a Fed wallet. But you go into your Fed wallet, you register it, you can then move it, instantly wherever you want it to go. And that's just automatic. So it comes in, it goes out. But that's it. That's the end. That's where they end their control. Now, are some people going to leave it there? Probably. Unfortunately, they might. Or from a government perspective, say, hey, our distribution is this way, but in order for you to open the account, you need to have another. You have to have a private wallet for it to go someplace. To me, that's the only way. I don't see how it could go in any other way, shape, or form. Because if you allow the government to maintain full control, It's bad, very, very bad. So let me see here. And this, so there's so many aspects to this. Privacy tokens. Are privacy tokens a threat to a nation's sovereignty? That's a great question. Um, so there's a lot of aspects to this. The privacy token. Again, is there a mechanism, because it has to be traded through an exchange? Are you holding them offline? Are you holding them online? Is that still a threat? Does the privacy token meet the needs of AML and KYC when you go through an exchange? And the exchange can, I believe, the exchange can register you and meet the necessity requirements, that you are AML and KYC. You've been registered on that exchange to hold the privacy token. But it's, to me, that's there's always an element here, and so can that element go too far? I think this is a huge conversation to get into the privacy tokens, because at the end of the day, when we work with fiat currency, again, there's no traceable denominator on that fiat currency. If I'm handing over $100, no one's going to trace that back to me. If I do a business transaction, the government doesn't have, and the public, view, from a public view, they don't have direct access to every transaction. So I do believe that there needs to be some sort of a secure mechanism built in, whether by the exchanges or whatnot, if you're going to have these types of transactions. So right now, if you're moving Bitcoin and someone has the Bitcoin address, they can basically go back and track that full transaction. Do they know it belongs to you? There is a lot of conversation where people have these big, public figure wallets. They know, hey, this is a Ripple wallet, this is a whatever wallet, and they're tracing the ebb and flow of movement of funds. If you're a public company, maybe that's a good thing. If you're a private individual or a small business, why is that a good thing? It's no longer a good thing for people to know or be able to pinpoint the ebb and flow of your money, through whether it's a digital asset or otherwise. It's a direct threat to the individual. And now you see, if you go down like Mexico, and I was doing a lot of business down in Mexico or Venezuela. In Mexico, people that I worked with down there, was amazing. They had 10, 12, 13, 15, I don't know, bank accounts. Here, it's interesting. My grandmother always taught me that you have to always diversify your holdings. But even if you're holding fiat currency, don't keep it all in one place. And maybe that was her lesson from the Great Depression or whatever it was, on how they lived and always keeping cash stashed all over the place. But you kind of learn, okay, they went through something that was devastating. Now, when you go down to like a Mexico, why is it that they put their money in all these different banks? That's because if one of the tellers told one of the bad guys that, hey, by the way, this guy has $100,000 in the account, guess what happens to that guy? But if you have $10,000 in 10 different accounts, then it doesn't have the same impact. They're like, the guy has $10,000. Yeah, is he a big fish? Is it worthwhile? Probably not. But that's where you start having that issue. If everything's open to the public, then it allows too much, too dangerous. Exactly. So let me see here. Bump. Okay, so let's go up here. There was something else. Oh, DNI had said something, and then there was something that Kelly had said. But DNI said the 5 flags are to do with countries that are better for residency, citizenship, banking, assets, and business. Another way to diversify. Yeah, I agree with that. That definitely makes a lot of sense. And then Kelly over here said, I think it will be like keeping your money in the bank under someone else's control, to keeping your funds in your own safe. It would be, if it's a bank, if it's a private entity, or it gives you, it's not under, I guess, going back to that, and I might have already said it, but it's not under full government control, which is, when you start nationalizing public business. So if you start nationalizing all of the banks, and that happens in countries where all the banks are nationalized, they're controlled and owned by the government. And so when that's a fact, when they're controlled by the government, then what are you going to do when the government decides that your money is really not, not yours anymore? And so I think there's a lot of issue there. Now let's segue a little bit here. Try taking that money under your bed into the bank when we go digital. Yeah, exactly. It's not going to happen. But now in the digital asset space, how about that money under your bed? Here's a perfect comparison, and I'm glad you brought that up, Michael, because think about the ledger. Right now, a lot of us, or a lot of investors in the digital asset space, are keeping their digital asset on a ledger. Or they're not keeping on there, but that's basically the key to their digital asset, and it keeps it offline. So it's not on the exchange. They're not in control of the keys, and so it changes the dynamics a little bit. Having that ledger is akin to keeping the money under your pillow, keeping the money in a safe. Self regulation, I guess you should say, of your finances. So at some point we have to have a level of trust in order for society to develop and grow and build. Then you have to have a level of trust in your banking system. You have to believe that your government isn't going to be oppressive. You have to believe that your businesses and your banks are going to be safe, a safe harbor for your money, to where you're not going to see a collapse of the banks and loss of your finances. But we have to be at that point in order for there to be full mainstream adoption in the space. I fully believe that we have to get to a point where people aren't so terrified where you have to keep money under your pillow, or you have to keep your digital asset on a thumb drive. That if you want to gain interest, you can feel comfortable and safe to put your money over on Celsius, or you want to just hold it, you want to put it in Coinbase, or you want to keep it in Uphold. But then look what happened to what was it, Bitmex? Was it Bitmex that just had that major issue, right? So in terms of what was the big one here? What happened with them? Um, is Bitmex, was it Bitmex? Which one just got smacked a little while ago? Here we go. Bitmex was suspected of facilitating criminal activity. But it's interesting. This is interesting, right? Bitmex has bled 45,000 Bitcoin since the U.S. government charges. So let's see. Gemini, Binance, OKEx, and Hubby appear to be the biggest gainers of the Bitmex fallout. That was on Cointelegraph. But what's interesting? What big bank just got smacked with like $1 billion in fines? That was J.P. Morgan. That's crazy. So, but hey, BZ Comedy, what is up? So really, if you look at it, is this terrifying that Bitmex is now facing U.S. government charges? Is it the biggest scandal in the world? It might be a scandal. It might be difficult to swallow. Uh, but at the same time, almost in the same week, like I said, J.P. Morgan was caught up in fraud that this pales in comparison. I mean, this is nothing. Yes, they might have facilitated, maybe they didn't fulfill their AML KYC properly, which is important, but JP Morgan was directly involved, as were some other big banks, directly involved in criminal activity, in the movement of criminally received funds. So, so is this threat? Will the governments focus on, say, oh, look at Bitmex? Bitmex is this major threat, and yet again, is that going to be symbolic or representative of what's happening in this space? I mean, come on, but this is really where the regulation is important, because as we see the development in the regulatory space, right, this regulatory clarity, do we want to see something like over in India, their regulation, where they're saying, nope, we like blockchain tech, but we don't like cryptocurrencies. They see it as a threat to their sovereign economic well-being for the rupee. So they don't want to have competition to the rupee. I believe that when you get into countries like this that see it as a big threat, it's because there's a little bit too much corruption and pay for play that's going on in those countries. And that's a reality over in India. I mean, that's, whether it's at the government level or at the business level, that pay to play mentality is what keeps their economy afloat. Now, granted, I always talk about India because India to me is just a nestling giant. It's just waiting to explode. And once it gets to that point where they truly allow the full potential of India to develop, it's going to be like we've never seen before, because there you have freedoms. You have a kind of a parliamentary democracy type of scenario, unlike with China, where you see just a lot of secrets, a lot of corruption, similar size population, similar types of poverty levels. Even though over in India, the poverty, I mean, it's staggering when you see some of the levels of poverty. But the difference is that in a country like that, where they focus on education, and they're also focused on how do we get the bottom percentage up? How do we lift people up? Instead of trying to punish the top down and bring the top down, they're trying to lift the bottom up. However, the one opportunity they have right now, and this is where you try to get it through from a political perspective and get them to understand that the crypto space, the blockchain space, and the crypto space go hand in hand to helping them, bring these people out of poverty. They try to crush their fiat currencies and move to a digital perspective because there's so much fiat transaction in that lower 700,000 people. Talking about twice the size of the population in the US live in poverty. So could you imagine you come to the US and everybody in the US times two live in poverty beyond anything you can ever imagine. So that's kind of what they're up against. But those within that segment are trying to pull themselves out, and they're living, day to day on this small amount of rupee. Now, if you crush the fiat currency, how does the person at the fruit stand, how can he transact? Right? Imagine right now if you go into businesses that are mobile and they say, oh, well, yeah, you can do it. You can do fiat. You don't need your fiat currency because you can get a Stripe device or whatever, or the Square, and you plug it into your mobile phone and then they swipe their credit card. When you get down to those layers where you're talking about them living on maybe $1 a day, I don't know what the fruit sells for. Let's say, a bushel, whatever that means. It sells for 50 cents, as an example. Now, how are you going to charge somebody, or how are they going to afford to have that Square device on their phone, and then B, pay those charges every time a credit card swipes? They're not going to be able to do that. It's not practical in today's legacy system. The bottom tier that live in poverty right now, that poverty anywhere in the world, they can't afford to get a mobile device, let alone the Square device, let alone the fees that it takes to process the credit card. That's why they have to live on fiat. Now, digital asset, the true digital asset that we're looking at right now, whether it's, any of them, the cost, the transaction power, the speed can be rapid. Now, does everyone necessarily have a mobile device? I think mobile devices are in the hands of a lot more people than we think. Even when that's the first device, people do get, if they are in poverty. That's the one thing. It's the biggest growing sector in a place like India or elsewhere. There's always a phone, and the government, from that perspective, if you want to help, if there's an assistance in there somewhere to help these people that want to develop business, they want to move out of legacy cash and they want to move into the digital space. So it's like, hey, I don't have the technology to do it. Well, in that case, this is where it becomes important. Hey, you know what? If the first loan that's backed by a government goes to a business person that's selling fruit, and their first loan is in their processing device, right, like a cash register, but their first device is their phone to allow them to accept digital currency, that's a big step forward. So once you are allowing, people to move forward, and you give them this type of power, imagine what you can do with a mobile phone right now in the digital asset space when it comes to moving money. I mean, now you have access to the world, right? That local fruit stand, can maybe then, through his apps on his phone, can create a delivery service, and maybe he hires another person. Now he just employed somebody to go and do his deliveries while he's out, picking the fruit, because he has to go down to the port or wherever the fruit comes in. He picks out his fruit for the day that he's going to sell, and he brings it back. But meanwhile, he's got his app that people are buying fruit in the community, but they can't travel to where he is because now he has a delivery. Hey, for an extra, 50 cents or maybe free, I'm going to actually have your fruit delivered to you right to your house. All you have to do is go on the app, and now you're buying. And so from a buyer's perspective, so now as you start seeing this economy grow and develop at the lowest levels, that's the only way to make it happen. But if there's going to be some sort of resistance to making that happen, this is the biggest resistance, is the technology. So if you want to crush fiat currency, which eventually we're going to see happen here because they want to move rapidly into a digital economy, but helping people at these lower levels. We don't want government handouts. That's the most dangerous thing that you could ever do to a society, is to create generational dependence on government handout. Because once you do that, you crush the will of the people, and you give them really no future, because now they're going to exist on whatever the government hands them, and you're destroying them. And you see that time and time again. And as the government at that point also creates the limitation for that individual's development, right? So now within blockchain and crypto, and I'm probably just, I'm saying this stuff, you guys know it, but it's giving everybody that potential opportunity to grow and develop. I think, you get into a poor community, even in the middle class community, forget about all of this, but even in the middle class community, people are living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. But if you're giving people an opportunity to actually engage in investment, to engage in trade, to find a mechanism to better their lives instead of constantly living just, paycheck to paycheck, being able to put money away. And maybe people, they're afraid of the stock market because you can't. How are you going to buy an Amazon stock? How are you going to come up with $1,700 or $1,800 or whatever it's at right now? What other stocks, sometimes it's hundreds of dollars, sometimes it's not, but it takes education and knowledge sometimes to go through and educate yourself on the stocks. But it's a starting point. It's a starting point for so many people when you can take $5, $10, $20, and you can move it over into a digital asset, and you can then look for it to grow. You can then take that digital asset and put it on a platform like Celsius that's going to actually gain interest. So right now you look at the banking spaces. Are banks paying 3.5% interest on your money? No. But this all goes back to now we as a community, you have to have comfort, or you have to be comfortable and calm. You need to be confident in the fact that the digital asset exchange or a platform like Celsius isn't going to implode. You have to also believe that if the government's going to come after a Bitmex, let's say, and you have your digital asset on that exchange, that they're not going to be crushed because they circumvented AML and KYC, that they're not going to disappear and your money's going to disappear with them. That's a big threat. But when the government comes after a JP Morgan, are you worried that your money's going to disappear when they have to pay $1 billion? They paid 900 million in change in fines, and that's mind-boggling. So let me see here. Let's look at what were the fines. Let's see, JP Morgan fines. So $920 million. 920 million. Could you imagine what could you do with $1 billion right now if you wanted to create and help projects that need an uplift? So you have businesses that are fledgling businesses getting ready to get started anywhere in the world, doesn't matter. What could you do right now today with $920 million to make these people's lives better, to help them, get to the next level in a fledgling business? What about putting an entrepreneurial education program together in any country? It doesn't matter. We're talking about $920 million paid in fines. Why? For illegal behavior. Illegal behavior, right? Manipulating bond metals markets. How That's insane. But is JP Morgan worried? Is anybody holding their money right now worried about JP Morgan collapsing? But are people that are in Bitmex worried because they circumvented the AML KYC? They need to get their shit together. Because right now you're in the fledgling space. This is the community, and there it's hyper focused. There's a magnifying glass right now on the digital asset space. But when you look at a JP Morgan, nobody gives a crap. It's amazing. And Kelly brings up a great point. Where is it? Where does the money go? Who gets the money from the fines? U.S. financial regulators and the Department of Justice said traders at JP Morgan used a tactic known as spoofing over an 8-year period. Spoofing, right? Spoofing is when traders send trading signals into a market with no intention of buying or selling at those prices in order to move a market in one direction or the other. You see it happen all the time. I mean, it amazes me. And it's not just the big banks. Who's that? Who's that? Who's that talking head? Who's that talking head? What's his name? Kramer. Think about the power that he has over an asset. When Kramer says this is a buy, what do you think people do? They run out and buy. This is a sell? What happens? He runs out and sells. How do we know that he isn't somehow being manipulated? I'm not saying that he is. I'm not saying that. But what if he is, right? What if he is being manipulated to go on the Squawk Box or whatever show he has and start promoting or demoting a stock based on his opinion? It's a sell, it's a buy, it's a sell, and is it really impacting the movement of that currency? But now imagine you have a currency or a stock. If you have an $1,800 stock, 10% movement in that 1,800 stock, it's big, but it's not catastrophic, right? If you have a smaller stock, it can be a little bit more catastrophic for the stock. Why? Because the movements are a lot, it's amazing how you can manipulate a market. So if you have a $10 stock, it's a lot easier to buy in and sell out and detrimentally impact the overall valuation of that stock than it is if it's an $1,800 stock. You're not going to have that impact. That 10% movement's not going to be as catastrophic as you would on another one. So what kind of stocks should they focus on? Here, I don't know, what is this on PBS or something? In the case of the U.S. Treasury market, the Securities and Exchange Commission said JP Morgan traders submitted both trades they intended to act upon as well as spoof trades. Is anyone going to jail for this? The goal was to use spoof to nudge the market in a certain direction and then activate the intended trade to profit from the move. Now, are you seeing stuff like that happen in the crypto space? I'm sure. The crypto space is highly subjected to this type of potential trade manipulation. And you started seeing individuals, like let's say with like Dogecoin, or you go back a month or so ago, people on Twitter, there was a Twitter community saying, let's see, can we get the Dogecoin up? Everybody buy whatever. You got to get the price up. How do you know who's behind that, right? People want to sell. They want to sell out because they bought in down here. Boom, it gets to that height. People are selling out to those new buyers. Guess who's left holding the bag? The bag holders, like the penny stock manipulation. There's laws against it. Hence, JP Morgan is getting smacked really hard with $1 billion fine. $1 billion. But why don't they care about $1 billion fine? Whereas Bitmex is now, what's going on with Bitmex. So this is why it's important to have regulatory clarity, but you don't want to have regulatory control, draconian control, like in a China, for instance, or a Venezuela, where they have draconian control over the digital asset exchange because you have no choice. You're going to do what the government wants you to do, and the government's going to have 100% dominant control and oversight over what's going on. Hey, I'm just getting a whole bunch of text messages here. Oh, okay. I guess that's not happening. Anyhow, it's been raining here all morning, and that's it. So we're not playing tennis today, apparently. So so there's so much to this, So I was looking up Bitmex. Let's check this out real quick. Let's go to Bitmex Indictment. This is crazy, So people talked about it over here. Blah blah blah. Let's see. Founders and executives of offshore cryptocurrency. So this is the. Here we go. Bitmex co-founders charged with U.S. rules violations. But what does that mean exactly? This is going on for a little while. This was 2 days ago. Here, let's open. Let's say Bitcoin starts shrugging off the Bitmex bombshell. It doesn't. It just goes down and out. Here we go. So, what does the Bitmex indictment mean? This is on Decrypt. Twitter reacts after the big Bitmex news. Social media reactions highlighted the resilience of Bitcoin. What happens next, and absurdity too. So it's crazy, right? So here you have a perfect comparison between what's going on in the banking space as to what's going on in the digital asset space in parallel, right? In parallel. Now, you also have, what was it, a little over a week ago, where you had that $150 million hack in KuCoin, an exchange. So are these threats, is this scary when you have one exchange that is now potentially could be shut down? Maybe this indictment could really be detrimental to the owners of the exchange. But you had another exchange at the same time hacked for $150 million. How does that impact the individual holders? When we talk about the safety and security of being able to hold our digital asset, take it outside of our own safe, right? We don't want to keep our money under the pillow. I don't want to bury a safe in my backyard. I want to be able to have my money on a bank, because you know why? Because all global transactions occur through banks. That's the easiest way to do it. Do I want to hold my personal keys? Yes. What about a Coinbase that can only be opened with the ledger? How about a nice partnership there? That would be interesting. How about Uphold? Go beyond two-step, plug my ledger in, and I can access Coinbase, Uphold, or any exchange that I want. That now is keeping and securing my keys and having control over that. But for mainstream, now imagine you lose it, right? Now you want to be able to, as a mainstream adopter, you want to have that comfort also that you can go to the bank. This is why the banks get to pay the higher fees, because they're taking all the risk, right? The individual is absolving themselves of risk because they're putting all their money in the bank, and they're saying, bank, you're protecting my money. I want you to custody my digital asset. I don't want to worry about it. I don't want to, if you go under, I want to make sure that it's backed up, that you're insured, that there's FDIC, that now I have to have reliance in my government, and I have to have reliance in the insurance provider. And I have to make sure, my personal responsibility at this point is to make sure that the amount of money that I keep in your bank is under the FDIC requirements or limitation. That's the only responsibility I want. So now, as a mainstream adopter, and this is where it all goes. So now you get into regulatory clarity. What are some of the things that you can achieve through regulatory, not regulatory control, but regulatory clarity? So I've kept Kelly's comment up there forever. Who gets the fine money? And I think the government gets the fine money. I don't think the people get it. I believe that the fine money just kind of goes away. Hypothetically speaking, if JP Morgan made $5 billion dishonestly and they're fined $1 billion, Why wouldn't they lie? Exactly. There you go. So, the punishment is such that it's impactful, but it's not disrupting. So is a $1 billion fine or $920 million fine impactful to JP Morgan? Is it a slap in the face? Yes. Is it anything beyond that? Not really, because if they fine them to a point where it's detrimental to the business to disrupt all of the people that keep their money in the bank, it's a whole different world. So they don't want to do that. It has to be enough that's proportional in their mind, in their estimation. You just defrauded all these people because you think about the spoofing, right? They're manipulating the market. Who's impacted by the manipulation? Other people. So you have traders working for JP Morgan that are manipulating the market in order to make a bigger gain for the people that they're investing for, but they're not trading against the market. The market is made up of people, so they're trading up against other people, and they're screwing over other people, to get more money. And this is this is the whole issue. But you see how the laws work, though, because they get hit, right? They get caught. They can't not get caught. So it's crazy. But look at this. I have $40 worth of coins on KuCoin, still can't get it. So how scary is that, right? You can't get your money off of an exchange because the exchange was hacked and probably locked themselves down. That's terrifying. That really is terrifying. Fortunately, it's only $40. Maybe the fines go to the coffers. Yeah, like the Chinese import. Hey, there you go. It all goes in. It all goes into one slush fund, and that's it. And then the all of government gets to somehow milk that slush fund. Then you wonder, how is it that all your congressional representatives making $175,000 a year leave multimillionaires? Forget about the book deals, the whatever. Every book deal that one of these representatives gets coming out of Congress is a payoff. Bottom line, think about, not to get too political here, but this factors into the whole conversation, and it's a fact. But think about when Obama was running for office back in for 2008, right? What was one of the first things they did while he was still running? They gave him a book deal worth $1 million. What do you think that $1 million meant to him when his salary prior to that, you saw a major bump up in salary and in earnings between him and Michelle Obama during that period of time? What was that book deal that he got? How about the Clintons' book deals coming out of office when they just get unlimited? The Obama's the same thing. They got these major book deals paid off. Hillary got a major book deal with a huge payout before writing the book. Is it because they want the information, or is it a transfer of money and payment? That's for you guys to decide. But this all factors in because you're seeing the same kind of activity within a JP Morgan or within the digital asset exchanges. If they're circumventing AML, you're just AML, KYC, whatever. It's just moving money to a different party, to a different player, somewhat illegal. But isn't that the same thing? Or because it's a book deal, then you can hide behind it. You can easily pay somebody off. You can employ their children as a thank you for what you did for me before. So there's all these different ways to do it. But in a political establishment, it becomes okay, because people aren't going to look into it. We're going to allow the corruption to exist. We're going to take these fines, put it in. You have the major lobbyist organizations. They're going to, move money around. So you kind of move things in the direction they want you to move in. But this is why, there's a light on it, but people have allowed it to go on. Are there laws on the books that forbid all of this stuff that we're just saying from happening? Yes, the laws are there. Do they use the laws? No. Like here, with JP Morgan, is that the first time JP Morgan got caught up and fined for activity like this? No. Deutsche Bank got smacked with a huge fine not that long ago. I mean, if you go down, I made a video on it once. We went down all the different fines. It's going to happen. Bitmex, people are people. People are going to be good. People are going to be bad. They're going to manipulate and use the system. But it comes down to the oversight. It comes down to the to what the people want. at the end of the day, are the people going to allow this to continue, or are they going to say, look, we've had enough. We want to make sure that, people are being held accountable to the way things need to be. Laws. Huh. What laws? Exactly. So, so that's kind of crazy, right? Let's see. Uh, okay, I'm going up. I'm going up. I'm going up. Let's see. What is this? What do you say here? My sister says that every single retail loan her bank puts on the market is a fact illegal, but the fine is 1 million every year, and they're okay with it. There you go. And that's in another country. Hey, you know what? If the fine is like, if you made $2 million and you have to pay half of it in fines, hey, that's fine. That's how business is done. Like over in India, I was mentioning, if you know you're going to make $100, but you know that 20 of your 100 is going out to pay people off in the corruptive model, because you need to move product, goods, whatever you're paying, bribes, whatever. That's a part of their business model. Yeah, I mean, it's astonishing. I remember sitting down with a group over there, and they're factoring in, here's what the cost of the good is, here's the cost of transport, here's the cost of something. I'm like, what is this something here? What is this number? I don't understand. Why is it cash now? All the things, it's all going through the banks, whatever. Now they factored in X amount for this, and then here's our whatever, and here's our markup, and here's the customer price. And I'm like, what is this number over here? I don't understand. And they said, oh, that's to pay everybody off. That's to pay off the customs people, to get things through customs so they don't tie it up. This is to pay off this guy. This is to pay off the driver so they don't steal our products. This is to pay off this guy to make sure that, the police don't stop the truck where it's going, to slow things down. This is that. I'm like, holy crap. And it was a big sum of money, and it was all cash. I'm like, that's a way of life. I mean, in the US, nobody thinks that way. You're not thinking about, okay, I've got this, I've got my payoff money, and I've got this. It's just, here's my cost of goods, here's the cost of whatever, here's our internal cost, here's our markup, and the product flows. It's kind of crazy. It's so crazy. So, but this gets us all back into this regulatory clarity. Is crypto a danger to that way? Is crypto a danger to JP Morgan? Yes. Why? Because it shines a light on corruptive activity, and especially when someone brought up the idea, was it Steve brought up, the privacy token. If their digital asset wallets are out in the open, in the public, you're seeing the movement of funds all over the place. Same thing with the governments. Is that type of a wallet a threat to governments, where you get full transparency from a public perspective? We need to have the full transparency. Oh my God. That's funny. In the future, they'll use their phone, scan, boom, there's the payoff. Yeah, and then if it's not a privacy token, then boom, you get to actually see what's happening. And the government, if you have the Fed coin and you have the Fed wallets, guess who's watching? Boom, hey, that guy just paid him off. Hey, we need, if you paid him off, at least pay your taxes. Hey, that's a 7% tax because you paid that guy off. It's okay. Government's okay. We're okay with you paying him off, but at least let the government get their percentage off the top. Maybe that's what they want. Hey, we're okay with all that. There's going to be a certain percentage of illegal activity as long as the government gets theirs. Oh my God, it's so hilarious. So, oh, Michael, what is this? Uh, where'd it go? Oh, wait a minute. It keeps bouncing. There we go. That's fine. That's one of the books. I'm sure there were others. I'm sure there are others. Oh my God. Boom. Hey, can anyone comment on that? Home church all the way over in Panama. Anything about the Ripple lawsuit? It's one I haven't really stayed on top of. So you guys have any feedback, that'd be awesome. Let's see. Monero for India's next top model. There you go. There you go. Croatia. In Croatia, you count 5 to 10% in public tender to pay off people. There you go, in Croatia. So I know in the Eastern Bloc countries, that was also common and still common. So it's just a way, it's a way, it doesn't happen a lot, in I would say Western countries, but that's what it is. So if you go to, there's certain, aspects, so if you go to England, or, you're in Europe, in Germany, France, you're not going to see that kind of payoff happening for tenders. It comes in a different way. It comes in a different way, like in the US. So just as I was saying, from a business model perspective, not so acceptable. You get to the government perspective, more acceptable. If it's big business model, they also have their mechanisms of how they did it. And so, stuff happens. Stuff definitely happens. Partially dismissed. Okay. Payoff are only common in the banking sector. That's really funny. All right. So here we go. So I want to get into regulatory clarity. I want to get into regulation. Man, we've been going for a long time. I got shut down earlier on streaming. Get a phone call from Chip. Chip's like, your video was pulled off. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm streaming. I can see a couple comments. I'm like, oh, those are only your comments. He goes, no, you've been streaming for like 10 minutes and you got pulled off. And I'm like, what? I was censored? He's like, yeah, you were censored. You got your video is terminated. I'm like, oh, come on. So we had to start this whole thing back up again. And here we are sitting. Now we're an hour into this one. Absolutely. What a great conversation. You guys are awesome. I love the feedback. I love this conversation. Freaking awesome. But this is what we get. We get censored right in the beginning. We get right back up and we're out there. We're out there talking. Did you guys talk about moon time yet? Not yet. Guessing on when the next parabolic run is coming. All right, bull run. We can go over to Spain. We're going to do the run with the bulls. And then we're going to see exactly when the bull run comes. But all right, we're going to move over. I'm going to talk a little bit about Venezuela now. And then I want to talk a little bit about, what is it? HR 8128. Nobody knows what that number means, but it's important because it was a bill that was just passed through Congress, sitting in Senate. And we want to talk a little bit about that before we wrap. We want to talk about what is Ripple doing that is trying to go green. There's people are reaching out too much. Keep business out of politics. It can be very disruptive for the business. We're going to see that. And then before we finalize, I also want to talk a little bit about Swift, because Swift is trying to take on RippleNet, and we got to see what's going on there. They're trying to take on Stellar as well, it looks like. I don't know. But let's talk a little bit about Venezuela. We're going to do a round. This is going to be quick. This is going to be interesting. Venezuela. What do we know about Venezuela? You guys remember about a year ago, Nicolas, the president, Maduro, said that they're going to launch their own digital asset that was going to be backed by their oil riches. And that asset was called the Petro. You guys remember that? You guys remember the Petro, on how successful the Petro was, on how Venezuela went out there and President Maduro went out and said, I'm going to get everybody to start trading in the Petro. And the only digital asset exchange that people are going to be able to use is going to be the government controlled digital asset exchange. And I want everybody to own the Petro. And then what happened? What happened? It's crazy, right? So could you imagine that the Petro, backed by their gas holdings and other things, what is the barrel today? What is the processing of Venezuela? Venezuela has almost no oil. Venezuela, which is an oil-rich nation, is now reliant on subsidies and buying oil from other countries. Right? Here we go. This is insane. So check this out. This is insane. 2002. Wait a minute. Where is it? Okay, this is the drop off. This is so insane let me get this data here. Let me see if this is accurate. This is so crazy. Venezuela crude oil production reported at 340,000 barrels per day in August of 2020. This records an increase from the previous number of 339,000 barrels per day in July. So they went up. Now, before that, they had, I think that's, say 2002, 2.3 million barrels a day in 2002. Let's see, the data reached an all-time high of 2.9 million in October and a record low of 337,000 in June of this year. So in 18 years, they went from a major producer to almost nothing. Almost nothing. I mean, they can't even survive with that. They can't survive with pulling that kind of barrel out. We've got Algeria, 855,000 per month. Let me see, an increase. That's an increase from January through August. What is this? All countries, regions. Let me go. Where's Latin America? Why is South America? Here we go. Argentina. Was I right about those numbers? I could have been off. I don't know. They have a dot here. I'm assuming it's 340,000. I believe that was the number. Barrels per day in August. They were a major producer. We see an increase here of the year, barrels per day, frequency, yearly. They're looking at it yearly. But Argentina, barrels per day, 500,000. Brazil, 2.7 million. Canada, 1.3 million in 2019. Chile. So it's crazy. Where's Venezuela on this? 340,000 per day. And what a drop. I mean, it's crazy. I think that's accurate. I could be wrong with these numbers. I don't know. Here it says frequency yearly. I don't know, whatever. The point is it's more on Venezuela. Venezuela moving from a major producer of oil down to basically needing subsidies. So my point with that was, not to get sidetracked in this conversation, but the point is to look at the backing of the petro. What in the world is backing the petro now? They don't even have enough oil to back the petro. But what does Maduro want? He believes. So here it is. Speaking in the country's parliament. This is on Bitcoin.com, actually. We could probably pull this up right off of their TV, but then it's going to be in Spanish, and then it's not going to do us any good except for the few Spanish speakers that are here. So speaking in the country's parliament on September 29th, Maduro revealed that the move will give new strength to the use of the petro and other cryptocurrencies, national and global, in domestic and foreign trade. The country has already been trying to use its national crypto, the petro, for this purpose, but without much success. That's crazy. Maduro was delivering an anti-sanctions law aimed at spurring economic and social development, both paralyzed by U.S. sanctions. So the U.S. has placed big sanctions. They've had their there's a lot of issue. So right now, and it's interesting. So now we're starting to see a movement, and you're starting to see a coalescing of powers around the world. And this all factors in. I think this is really interesting because the coalescing of powers right now, you're going to see these coalitions. You have actors like Venezuela, China, Russia, Iran, and potentially North Korea as one bloc coalescing. China is trying to exert more influence in the Eastern Asian region. Venezuela as an oil producer to try to create a little bit of leverage in Latin America, South America. Then your other block, now you have North America, so it'd be U.S., Mexico, Canada, and then you have the European block, and so Britain or the U.K., after Brexit would potentially be factored into the U.S. block along with Australia, and then now you have this new Middle East block. So within the Middle East, I think you have a lot going on right now with the Israel, the UAE, Bahrain, potentially now Saudi, as an economic powerhouse. And so you have all these coalitions that are forming. Interesting the way it's going to move. So now the digital asset space to spur the growth, because if you look at like in the Middle East, the big focus is a counterbalance to the influence of Iran, but also from a counterbalance from the economic control from China, and also the development of the tech space and the AI space, which the Saudis have been investing in heavily for years now. For years, it could be like 5 years or whatever years. The UAE has been attracting business for many years. They moved away. They said we got to move our focus away from oil production. The writing's on the wall, right? The oil production is going this way. Other technologies are going that way. We don't know when that cross is gonna, that intersect is gonna happen, where oil production and other tech is going to intersect with the other tech takes over from oil. Right now, oil is still, the top because that's just how things are. So it's going to be interesting. But the writing's on the wall. You're starting to see hydrogen. You're starting to see electric. You're starting to see solar. You're starting to see whatever the technologies are going to be. It could be 10 years, 20 years. Who knows when that happenstance will be? But it's important because especially as you move, this production, the development, the digital asset space, what is going to happen when you have the regulation, the regulatory clarity from a global perspective, but you have to have regional regulatory clarity to where when you have the technology on how, production and money movement is seamless and transparent and fast, where settlement happens in 4 seconds, so if business A is moving money to business B, the intermediary, the banks, normally it could take 3-5 days. You're moving $1 million, but you have Nostro, Vostro accounts. There's that settlement time frame, and there's delays, especially in the small business sector. There's always delays. It's not transparent. It's lots of problems that can come up. But now imagine business A, business B, 4 seconds. Here's your million. Here's your product. Boom, we moved money. Think about what that does from a global perspective, but now from an energy tech space. Imagine you're back feeding power and you're getting charged for your power usage, and you're be able to feed the grid, from power that you're producing on your own. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy the things that could happen, right? It's just insane. But this is why having some understanding in the regulatory space, that's why it was so vital for OCC to actually say that, there had to be, an allowance for these Fed banks to custody crypto. Also important from a stable coin where they can hold the reserves. They passed that. It's freaking amazing. It's unbelievable, right? I mean, it really, really is amazing. So, it's crazy. I'm just watching all this stuff go through here, and it's crazy. You guys, really, really, crazy here. All right. So now this is, so Venezuela. All right, we got sidetracked. So here's that's their objective. But what I think is interesting, for months now, months and months and months, the people in Venezuela have found Bitcoin, Ethereum, and others as a place where they want to put all their asset, right? Because it's too dangerous to have. You're talking about currencies with 1,000,000% inflation rates, in the Bolivar, and it's been destructive, devastating. So now they're trying to get out of this. They're trying to do something. But here it says Venezuela's deepening economic crisis has led to a massive adoption of cryptocurrency. It has nothing to do with the government, though. More than $8 million worth of Bitcoin traded peer-to-peer each week, peer-to-peer, because they can't do it on the exchanges because the exchanges are blocked by the government. The government recently signed a new tax agreement that enabled it to start collecting taxes and fees in the petro. There you go. They're moving to that next level. They're going to force the petro through regardless. And the petro is a centralized digital currency, not really a blockchain-based digital asset. Just like the digital yuan, no different. So hang on. Need to fuel myself with some Sigfredo. God, this is good. Man, this is good. God, you guys got to get some of the Sigfredo. Get the one in the red bag. Get the whole bean. Outstanding. I love it. Oh my God. It's one of the best coffees. available. That's it. I used to get the Segfredo came in a black bag. You can't get it in the US. It had to be brought in. Uh, one of my buddies traveled here all the time, once a month. Uh, same. And that was my constant order. I'm like, man, you're coming here. You got to bring it. You got to bring a bag. And he brought a bag. Every month. It was $50 for this bag, not this one, but the other one because it's more expensive over there. But this one, you get this one on Amazon normally for $30. And then I went. They ran dry. I'm like, oh my god, they're not going to have it. So then I had to go somewhere else. Um, ha, no, yeah, that's hilarious, Sirdan. That's funny. The Elite Coffee, good. If you want instant coffee, the Israeli Elite Coffee is good. Man, I used to live on the Israeli Turkish coffee. Oh my God. You get it in a bag and it's a fine powder. And there's a way you had to bake the coffee. So my buddies, when we all used to go out all the time, we'd come back to my house at like 2 a.m. I'm like, all right, we went out to eat. We're back at the house, or we'd cook at the house or whatever. It'd be, when you'd make like eggs and home fries and everything. And so you're over there. I'm like, okay, coffee. It's like 2 a.m. Turkish coffee. You put the Turkish coffee in the water, you load up the sugar in the water, and you bring it to a boil, let it simmer, boil, simmer, and it's like half sugar, half coffee, a little bit of water. You mix that up, and you get the coffee. It's like beyond the Cuban coffee, and it's freaking amazing. Sir John, that's hilarious, but that's funny. So, all right. So let's go to this. I don't want you guys to say, hey, what the hell is this? The Huddle Review is now a coffee show. It's a coffee making show. But if you're making Turkish coffee, you add a little bit of cardamom to it. That's how they do it in Lebanon. In Lebanon, they put cardamom in the coffee, and it's the same process. You boil it, but you put the whole cardamom in there while you're cooking the coffee, and it gives you this like little extra flavor. It's just like, bam! It's just amazing. Oh my God. When you get into it. So, all right, let's go to Swift, and then we're going to wrap up. Once we get through the Swift thing, I'm going to wrap up with the regulation part. That way, if people come in, they're like, holy crap, it's an hour 15. I want to hear regulation. They go and get right to the end and hear the regulation part. So you guys are awesome. You guys are like, hanging through this whole time. You guys are awesome. I love the conversation over there. Yeah, exactly, Carl. But it's not me, honestly. It's not me. I got forced into drinking espresso again. So I was working with this group over in Israel. Now my wife works with them, and he came over and and they wanted coffee, and he said, "Where's the coffee?" I had a whole group over here at the house. First morning they're here. They came over from the hotel before we had to go do some things, and hey, protect us, the garbage truck's here. So they came over, they're like, where's the coffee? And I said, it's right there. There's the coffee maker right there. You put the beans on top, it grinds it, and it puts it into the thing automatically, and then it's drip. He goes, what is this drip coffee? He goes, it's like brown water. He said, what are you trying to poison us with that brown water? And then the next time they came over, all of a sudden the Segfredo bag showed up. This goes back like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. The Segfredo bag shows up. The little Italian espresso maker shows up, and and then we already had the grinder, and then all of a sudden, boom, espresso, and it's Segfredo. And now, but then you have to like branch out. You have to experience like Death Wish. There's a link below, you guys. You got to check out the Death Wish. Oh my God, it's like when we ran out of Segfredo, Death Wish has got like 15,000 reviews on Amazon. It's freaking amazing, unbelievable. Anyhow, sidetracked. Who sidetracked me over here? Man, where's Wen Mullet? Did he sidetrack me? What's going on? So, all right. So Swift. So Swift is piloting a new service for low value cross-border payments, right? And their target is the small, medium-sized enterprises and consumers. So right here on their website, this was introduced October 1 on the Swift website. So you go to swift.com /news-events, and you're going to find it. enables financial institutions to provide fast and frictionless cross-border payments for small, medium-sized business and consumers. Over 20 financial institutions involved in its development. 20 of them. JP Morgan. Uh, JP Morgan wasn't there. I was just throwing that in there. Swift announces today plans for a new service to help banks improve the experience for small, medium-sized business and consumers who send low-value payments across border. Get ready. Get ready for this. The service will enable these bank customers to make faster, easier, predictable, and competitively priced payments all over the world. They're working with 20 banks to develop the service, which builds on the strength of Swift GPI and the high-speed rails that have already transformed the business of high-value payments. This new initiative will enable customers and SMEs to benefit from predictable payments with costs and processing times known up front. Wow, could you imagine that you actually know what your processing time is and your cost before you make the transaction? Imagine all the 40 years Swift has been like, give me that money. You know, I want the payment money, and your bank, you're not even going to know what it's going to cost you, but it's going to happen. Don't worry about it. Settlement's going to take like 5 days. And if there's a mistake, it's going to bounce back and you're not going to get your money back for 5 days. And if there's a communication issue with our messaging platform, you're not going to know, and it's going to tie up your business for 2 weeks. Huh. That's how it used to be. This new initiative will enable consumers and SMEs to benefit from predictable payments. That's awesome. With costs and processing times known up front. And underscore this, real-time status available to both originator and beneficiary. What does that sound like? What has another organization for the past 12 years or 8 years been working on since 2012? What have they been working on? Oh yeah, that's right. RippleNet. Oh my God. So RippleNet for the big financial institutions, which can also be open to the small SMEs. So SMEs can be big, but financial institutions, banks, movement of money across border fast, seamlessly, transparency, know your costs up front, all of those things, right? Instant settlement. Oh, guess what? Okay, so now 8 years in, Swift is getting the message. I guess that's my point. Not to highlight Swift, but they're getting the message. Things are transitioning. Now they're trying to be competitive. They have to compete in the space. So that's all I wanted to say. You know, there's a lot more going on, but all right, let me bounce into regulation now. Let's do that. I promise you guys that we're gonna get into regulation. Let's talk about that because it's important. Well, a lot of people testing. So, all right, check this one out. I think this one is great. This one's great. Not sure how we're gonna pay our HOA. What? Something is going on with PayPal and CR. Banks won't accept transfers for some reason. Not sure how we're going to pay our HOAs. Wire, when before they had zero competition. Yeah. So, all right. So check this out. I'm going to bring this up. And this is it. We got to share this. We're going to share this one. I didn't share anything else, but if there's anything that we're going to share this one. Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. Boom. Do I not? I can share this tab and then we can bounce around it. Which tab is being shared? This one. HR 8128 Crypto Safety Technology Act. This one was just passed through Congress. Why is it exciting? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know why it's exciting. But it's important. All right. It passed through Congress. I'll tell you why it's exciting. I'll tell you why it's important. When it comes to regulatory clarity, right? Regulatory clarity is something that is needed. We need to have regulatory clarity in order for mainstream adoption. Mainstream adoption, adaption, development, explosion, whatever. We talked about why it's important that you can't expect mainstream to keep their digital asset buried in their backyard, on a ledger, in a safe, whatever. We need to have some comfort in this. We also don't need government dictating and controlling your federal wallets. Doesn't make sense. This is important. It's important for more reasons than just the fact that it's incorporated multiple different bills that had been presented. So, what were some of the bills that were incorporated? Let's see. Hang on a second. Where's my tab that I had open? Blip, blip, blip. 8153. We're not going to talk about that one. Oh, great. I closed the tab that I had it open to. Not important. All right, let's go to this one. Here we are. All right, so passed the House. That's what's important. The summary. The summary is important. What is this? AI for Consumer Product Safety Act. Why is the title so important? Why is the title kind of shine a light on the fact? Here we go. Here's the tab I wanted. But why is this important? Consumer safety. Those are two critical elements. Now, when I was talking to Warren Davidson's office during the Token Taxonomy Act period, and I was, we made the video for them, we did whatever. The one thing that they kept telling me that I tried to pass that message along was that it had to be bipartisan in nature, but that from a Republican perspective, they're focused on economic gain, limited government. They want to make sure that people have the opportunity to grow their wealth, et cetera, et cetera. The Democrats were focused on the consumerism aspect of it, safety. They want to make sure that that the individuals are protected. The Republicans wanted to make sure the AML was there. The KYC, both of them wanted KYC. The AML, anti-money laundering and terrorism, et cetera, on the Republican side. They're a nice balance, right? We're talking about bipartisanism. There was a nice balance of what this side wants and what this side wants. It made a big difference. Darren Soto in Orlando, Warren Davidson in Ohio, Davidson a Republican, Soto a Democrat, worked hard on the Token Taxonomy Act. Then it fell at the feet of the Financial Services Committee and Maxine Waters, who didn't even know what Bitcoin was, Bitcom, and they don't even know what Facebook is. The embarrassments over those 2 years ago, or every time they brought them in, it was an embarrassment. But the point is that for the past couple of years now, they've been hammering this home. They've been getting other congressional representatives on board. People are waking up to it. The news is coming out daily. Boom, boom, boom. It builds up, builds up, builds up. Darren Soto and Warren Davidson have relentlessly worked together from a bipartisan perspective to get this bill through Congress. While all this other noise is going out there in the space, mainstream media, destructive mechanism, the Democrats and the Republicans will never work together to do anything. They're never going to achieve anything because they hate each other. Well, guess what? This bill passed through Congress. Other bills passed through Congress. Forget about all that noise out there. That's meant to feed your fear and your loathing and the separation. That's a whole different conversation where that's going to go. But from this perspective, Warren Davidson, Darren Soto worked relentlessly to get this through. Now, if this said blockchain, cryptocurrency, tech act, do you think people would vote on it? They don't. People are afraid of it. Maxine Waters would look at it and be like, "Oh, is this another Bitcom bill? We don't want this. Just bury this. Keep burying it." Consumer safety tech. Who doesn't want consumer safety and technology? It's awesome, right? It's outstanding. Now it's in the Senate. It's already been read twice, and it's referred to the Committee on Commerce, Science, and Transportation. Perfect committee to be in because of commerce and science. But critical, right? But look, check this out. So short titles is passed. Consumer Safety Tech Act. Now check this out. What does it have in it? AI for Consumer Product Safety Act. That's what the bill was originally called. Blockchain Innovation Act. Digital Taxonomy Act. They merged, blended multiple acts together, bills together. Now there's different Democrats, different Republicans on the different bills. Darren Soto and Warren Davidson's name come up over and over and over and over again. Tom Emmer, and there's a whole list of guys that participated. So important to look at this, where it's come from, the official title, but how critical is this, right? Consumer Product Safety. Now it's a commission. So is this like the end all be all to regulatory clarity? Is this going to bring us to the next level? No. This isn't the end all be all. Is this a beginning? Yeah, it definitely is. You saw something pass Congress to direct the Consumer Product Safety Commission to establish a pilot program to explore the use of AI, artificial intelligence, in support of the mission of the commission, and direct the Secretary of Commerce and the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, to study and report on the use of blockchain tech and digital tokens, respectively. Boom, right? How important is that mission statement? How important is this? I mean, it's important. I mean, this is everything. But we look at it and we're like, oh, they're going to study and then they're going to report back. And, it's a pilot. It's just a pilot program. And it's, we're exploring the use. So we're not getting regulation. We're blending bills, but these bills are important as they combine them together to seek for the exploration of the use of all of these technologies in the marketplace. That's why it's important. But again, the highlight, consumer safety. That's a Democrat hot button. They want consumer product safety. Republicans want it too, but I'm just saying that's the hot button for the Democrat side. The hot button for the Republican side is being able to allow individuals to make money and have control over their own experience, their own growth. Limited government intrusion. So, are they going to consult with different groups? There's a lot, but look, not later than 100 days after the conclusion of the pilot program established under this, the Consumer Product Safety shall submit to the Committee on Energy in Congress. Goes back to the House of Rep, and the Committee on Energy and Commerce of the House of Reps and the Committee on Commerce. So now they have to go back to both and make publicly available on the website of the commission a report on the findings and data derived from such programs. So they have 180 days. 180. 6 months. So now they have 6 months to report back. It still hasn't passed the Senate yet. So it passes the Senate. Whenever it gets approved, it goes through. They have 6 months to research this. Do we have 6 months? 6 months for waiting on regulatory clarity. All I know is that it's going to be 6 months. Study on blockchain tech and its use in consumer protection. Study required. Requirements for the study. Short title. Findings. So it goes on. Is this the end all be all? No. Do we need regulatory clarity? Yes. What's going to happen if this passes the Senate? I'm assuming that it's going to pass the Senate. But this is a major step in the right direction. Why? Because we need to get to the co-sponsors. Burgess, Republican in Texas. Darren Soto, Democrat, Florida. Guthrie, Republican, Kentucky. Warren Davidson. The two most important people on this, Darren Soto and Warren Davidson. What do we see here? This bill was sponsored by a Democrat. So you have 2 Democrats, 3 Republicans on this bill. The bill was sponsored by, Jerry McNemy. August 28th. It took a month. But it went through and it got received in the Senate. Now it's moving on. But again, 2 Democrats, 3 Republicans. 2 of the people on this bill are well known, Darren Soto and Warren Davidson. That's what we need to know. That's what we need to focus on. Representing Florida, Kentucky, Ohio, Texas. This is important. This is really, really significant. Definitely moving on to the next level. Then there's even a related bill, which is the 8153, the Blockchain Innovation Act. September 1, it was referred to the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. So, you see the development. We see the direction things are moving in. This is really, it's really monumental. It really is, but this isn't like the end all be all. We're not at the stage yet of getting regulation. They're investigating that space. But again, the branding, the identifier, you bring this through Congress, the Token Taxonomy Act, they're like, what is token? What is taxonomy? It's too confusing. This digital consumer, what is it called? The Consumer Safety Tech Act. Everybody knows consumer safety technology. We all know what technology is. So consumer safety technology, boom. Hey, let's research it. Is blockchain for the consumer safety? Boom. Love it. So there you go. Mike, government will implement final clarity when banks are ready. They don't like the competition. There's a lot going on. It's crazy. That's right. You know, we're going to see that clarity. We're going to see things pass through. Everything needs to settle down. This whole thing with JP Morgan, that the fact that they're highlighting it now, I don't believe, obviously investigations are going to happen when they happen. Why now? Why a big spotlight on it again? You know, the corruption's been going on. They smash them with that $1 billion fine. Why is it critical right now, even if it's another 6 months out, you know, as they go through this research? Maybe we're not going to see another bill, but we know if you go back and read the Token Taxonomy Act from Darren Soto and Warren Davidson, you can see the significance of changing, of adjusting, amending, not changing, but amending the Security Acts of like 1933, 34, the IRS Tax Act of, I think it was 1980. And, you know, there's some adjustments. They're not changing. They're just adjusting to allow for language within the digital asset space. That's amazing. So you guys are awesome. I don't know. At one point we had like 50 here. We still have 39 people that hung out strong. I can't believe I've been on for an hour 35 after we got censored and banned off of this platform. As soon as we started, 10 minutes in, they're like, get out of here. And we came back. We don't believe in censorship, but you guys are awesome. Hit that thumbs up. Hit that sub button if you're brand new. That's it. That's all we got for today. Again, you guys are fantastic. Awesome seeing you guys here, taking on your Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, whatever it might be, to spend with us here on the HODL Review with the On the Chain community. Outstanding. So tomorrow night, Chip, who's our guest tomorrow night? Holy cow. I forget who the guest is tomorrow night, but we have a guest. Supposed to have a guest on tomorrow night for the roundtable, which is at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Appreciate it, Carolina. What is up? Good to see you here. Thank you. I don't know. We'll announce it. It'll definitely be announced. What, if, who, when. 8 p.m. tomorrow on the roundtable. Hey, check it out. You guys want to get some of that Segfredo? You can check it out. Get that Death Wish. I don't know. Every time I get a new coffee, it's going to be listed down below. That's it. You guys are awesome. I'll check you out on the next one.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.